I think as we're looking at that, we should be also saying, okay, as I look at this person, and I don't want us to limit people, but I think there is a sense that that person definitely has a call to vocational ministry, or he's going to be a powerhouse, or she's got that call. And then there's others you go, maybe, but it's going to take a long time. But here they would fit really well here. And I think as leaders, one of the gifts or calls, I think, of leadership is to know how to assess people and place them, to find leaders. And so those are some things that we need to look at. The second thing is that they should be with him. Let's take a look at that. Oh, I forgot to time those other ones on there. Sorry, they're not supposed to be showing yet. What do we learn from this? That we should be with him. You know what another way of saying this is? He was going to disciple them. Because he was a rabbi. And disciples who were with you, you trained them. The first thing that he called them to do, and that one comes in, and for some reason I didn't take those other ones off. I apologize. So it's basically, we're going to look at three things that Jesus did to equip his followers, or three principles or three keys to a program that develops leaders. Number one, it has to be relational. They need to learn through relationships. So learn through relationships. When Jesus invited them to be with him, he provided them an immersion experience in leadership development. It's really what it was. Everything he did in word or deed, his teaching, everything he did had a training aspect to it. Even when they were around the supper table and they came to foot washing or dealing with a squabble between the disciples. So Jesus invited the disciples into a 3-year process of spiritual formation and ministry skill development and instruction in theology. And he never referred to them as leaders. They were always disciples. But he'd say the disciple, when he's fully trained, will be like his master. Yeah. And when the church was planted, those disciples led this massive growth movement because they were trained as leaders. Now, we know the power of the Holy Spirit had to come. But when the leaders saw the confidence that were in Peter and John, they said they took thought. They were uneducated men. They hadn't been educated in the schools of Judaism and theology. But they took note that they had been with Jesus. They had been disciples of Jesus. So Jesus had done a good job. The fruit of his training was paying off. And when we love people, we will invest in them. We will influence them with our lives, and we're going to pour into them. And so learning through relationships. Though instruction is important, it always has to be in the context of relationships. Leaders are not produced primarily through listening to lectures. As much as I love to teach, leaders aren't produced through listening to lectures or reading books or writing assignments, as important as they can be in our development. By far the most important influence in the shaping of a leader is his or her interaction with other people. The mentoring component. Jesus chose them to be with him. And in their days with him, their lives were changed and they developed some amazing skills. Now, what did Jesus do when he was with them? Just think of it. Their time together included times of instruction. We'll look at that later. Question and answer, ministry times, times of retreat. They ate together, they walked together, they learned together, they ministered together. Sometimes the disciples failed. They couldn't cast a demon out and Jesus had to instruct them. Sometimes Jesus affirmed, Peter, flesh and blood hasn't revealed that to you, my Father in heaven has. Sometimes he rebuked. The next moment, Peter, actually, get behind me, Satan. Or James and John, you don't know what spirit you're of when you're calling that fire down from heaven. See, it's in the context of relationship and watching them respond to life and doing that all of a sudden he can correct them, that he can deal with their lives. He modeled for them. They learned by watching. If you never spend time with those you're training, how do they learn? If they can't see how you react to people, how do you handle conflict? How do you minister to that person? They need to watch you. Jesus warned them. Satan's asked permission that he would sift you. Well, I want to tell you, I'm for you. You're going to go through a rough time here, but I'm for you. Notice the relational stuff there. That's way beyond sitting in a lecture and mass people learning. Now, there were those times too. But this is one-on-one sometimes. And restoration. Peter, do you love me? Notice the one-on-one. Very relational. One of the greatest impacts on my personal development, and it's a pleasure to have Cliff and Donna Stoic here this morning, was 14 years working alongside them. At that stage of my life, I was needing shaping. And I learned. I learned how they had a heart for the lost. I picked up a heart for the lost because of them. How to pray for people at the altar. And watching, and God, what are you saying? And what's going to happen here? And diligence and faithfulness amidst all the obstacles. Those are things I caught. They didn't just sit down with me and say, now, Paul, this is how you handle this, and this is how you... Things are caught more often than taught. And it's that relational. Now, when I went to Living Stones, Paul and I are closer to the same age, and so it's a bit more peer-related, but I learned immensely in more of that peer relationship. It wasn't the same dependent need as needing spiritual father and mother, but it was still a learning experience for me. Large church, and how does it run, and how do you provide leadership to this group and this staff, and you can't replace that with just lecture. Those things are caught. And so have people with you. Whatever you do, just take them with you. Let them watch your life. Is that complicated? Every leader can do this. I'm trying to make it just simple here. Not only did Jesus, this relational component, not only were they learning in relationship to Jesus, how many know they were learning in community? And I really believe the most valuable training happens in community. And so James and John say, hey, we want to be on your right and left, or the mom comes along, and all of a sudden there's this argument. Who's going to be the greatest? Teachable moment. You know? And no one picked up the towel to wash anyone's feet. Teachable moment. And what is the new commandment? By this will all men know that you're my disciples if you love one another. How do you learn that if you're not in community? And so I believe that the relational side of this is huge. Effective leadership development programs need to include some form of community. I believe that. Where life touches life, and where the goal includes the forging of significant, deep relationships, not just mastery of curriculum. Now, I know a leader needs to acquire knowledge and to learn skills and be trained in those. But interaction, sometimes you learn from other students in the class. I believe one of the strengths of Living Faith, now I'm going to put in a plug here, we're a resident Bible college. People live in dorms. We have students who are RAs. We have Dean of Men and Dean of Women. They do work details. We eat together. We serve together. We go on outings together. We minister together. It's not just class. We have small group components. Students rub shoulders throughout the day in many ways. We play sports together. Go on outings together and pray together. It's relational. It's not just, okay, I go and I take my classes and then I go off to my apartment somewhere. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying they're missing something. I really believe it. They're missing a strength that's there. We've always had a high relational component at Living Faith. People feel like it's family. We've intensified that. I'm just going to share something that I think you could implement in your church. And this year we've gone to intentional one-on-one mentoring. We've always had relational mentoring, and oftentimes that's kind of happened spontaneously. But what we're doing is something unique. At the beginning of the year, students did a self-assessment in 6 areas. They did it spiritually. This covers quite a range of things that I think are quite exciting. You know, assurance of salvation, baptism in the Holy Spirit, your experience with spiritual gifts and the supernatural, developing of Christ-like character, spiritual disciplines. They do a self-assessment. Where are you at spiritually? They do a self-assessment psychologically. Do you have mental